You're listening to Wycombe Sound, online, on Radio Player, and on 106.6 FM.
Welcome to the latest edition of the Wycombe Wanderers Show with myself, Colin.
And myself, Bob.
That was the unrehearsed bit. That was fantastic. Imagine if we'd have planned that. Normally on the show we'd look back at the game or games that have happened between now and the previous programme.
Yeah.
but there haven't been any.
But luckily, we've got the exciting fact of a game against Tottenham Hotspur to come.
Yes, so plenty of build-up required for that, and it'll get the necessary build-up that it requires. We'll be catching up with the Chief Financial Officer, Pete Couhig, who'll be talking a little about the coronavirus outbreak at the club and a lot about the fourth round FA Cup tie, which is approaching on Monday.
And we will be hearing from Garry Thomspon, who, of course, scored in the 4-3 defeat to Spurs in the fourth round a few years ago.
2017 that was. I was trying to work out whether that felt like quite a long time or not, or comparatively recently, because a number of obviously the players are still there, like the Beast, he's still there.
Yes, that's true. Joe Jacobson
still there.
Blooms, well, Blooms will be there forever.
he's been there. He was there when our other guest as well, Kevin Betsy, who played 14 years ago on Saturday, I looked it up, was the second leg against Chelsea in the League Cup semi-final when they lost 4-0, but they held them 1-1 in the first leg.
Yeah, and again, that doesn't actually seem that long ago, even though I know that it was.
It's funny, isn't it, when you look at sort of time like that and you see someone who perhaps is 14 or 15 and you think, wow, you were just born then.
Yes, yes, that's so true. And if you're a young fan, you're probably listening thinking, oh, we played Chelsea in the League Cup semi-final, really, did we?
God, what a night that was.
Indeed. I mean, and that was the last time that Jose was at Adams Park.
I think it was around that time as well that goalkeeper Frank Talia had a freak lawnmower-related injury and couldn't play. He ran over his foot with the lawnmower and couldn't play.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
You can imagine, that would be slightly embarrassing in any line of work than having to ring up sort of like the following morning to say, hello, sorry, I've injured myself in a lawn mowing accident. But actually, if you're a footballer, that must have been really awkward.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's not the sort of injury you tend to pick up in a footballing career, you'd imagine.
No, but there have been some interesting ones in the past, haven't there?
Absolutely.
I think I can't remember who it was now, but didn't a goalkeeper injure themselves picking up a remote control once?
I think so, yes, that does sound familiar.
Yes.
It's a lesson to us all there.
No, well, indeed, yes. Take care around your lawnmowers and your remote controls. They're dangerous things.
So when we were last on, I don't think the coronavirus outbreak had actually happened, had it? Or had it?
No, but we were... last week's show was also positive because obviously we'd had the win against Preston, which was absolutely wonderful, probably our best performance of the season. And then, of course, we had QPR coming up on the Saturday. And everything seemed really positive. And you thought, well, yeah, this is definitely a game that we need to win. But you couldn't have had a better build-up than a 4-1 thrashing, really, of Preston North End. And then early on Friday, we got the news that actually, no, there had been a positive COVID test returned, and the game was postponed. And of course, the Sheffield Wednesday game that was meant to happen on Tuesday, well, that was already postponed anyway because of a COVID outbreak, at Hillsborough. And so there hasn't been a game since the Preston game. So the QPR game will now take place in March, is that correct? Yes, that is correct. You're going to ask me exactly when, and my mind's going to now fail me. But it is, yes, it's early March, I do believe. The 9th rings a bell. Yes, hang on, I'm just having a look. This is the excellent preparation that goes into this. Indeed, absolutely, yeah. This will definitely go on the award-winning tape. So it will be played on Tuesday, the 9th of March at 7 p.m. 7? Oh, that's an unusual time. I know, yes, yeah. So, we are getting quite odd kickoff times at the moment, aren't we, because of COVID, where clearly teams sort of think, oh, well, yeah, we'll play at 7 because it doesn't really matter. We don't have to worry about people coming back from work and things like that. But you normally get it, don't you, with like sort of long trips and whatever, not just like down the A40. Oh, yeah, we'll play at 7 o'clock. No, it's very strange. So Gareth can have a few sort of, a few reminiscences at Loftus Road before he comes home. Yeah, that's probably why they've done it that way. Yeah. Especially for Gareth. He said, oh, can we have it at 7 o'clock so I can just have a look around the stadium and remember when, when the fans here chanted my name. Because I guess as well, especially, I'm sure it's due to the times that we're in, but it doesn't seem very long ago, as you've kind of highlighted, since the 3rd round, and now we're anticipating the 4th round already. Yes, that is true as well, and I'm not sure whether that's just a sort of quirk of the calendar. I think there's normally 2 weekends between the 3rd and the 4th round, but obviously, they are sort of struggling to squeeze everything in this season. And then, of course, the 5th round is now played on a midweek evening as well. which the traditionalist in me doesn't like, but particularly this season, you think, well, yeah, okay, I can understand why.
And the fact that there are no replays as well.
Yeah, I mean, I actually don't mind that. I always think it's quite interesting going into a tie when you know that it's going to be decided on the night. I don't really like the current FA Cup, or certainly what was until, last season, where, well, yeah, you have one replay and then that goes to penalties. I think that's the worst of all worlds. I think it used to be really interesting, sorry to now sound really old, but way back in the day where we had unlimited replays, because that was exciting, where you could have, 2-3 replays. And particularly if you did draw the replay and then you had that exciting moment after the game where then there was a coin toss to decide who was going to be home for the second replay. And I can, very much remember as a kid being really excited and really hoping that, yes, that your team got the home tie in the second replay so that you could go to another game.
And quite a coincidence, obviously, being drawn against Tottenham at the side that we met in the same stage of the competition, as I say, in 2017.
Yeah, and it's amazing how that doesn't actually seem that long ago, and also just how fresh all of those memories are. You can still see or just feel the elation when Paul Hayes put us 2-0 up, and then obviously Tottenham got it back to 2-2, and you slightly thought, oh well, that's our chance gone. It's been a great day out. And then the fact that Garry Thomspon popped up and put us 3-2 ahead, and to be honest, that was the point where I really started dreaming and really thought, goodness me, we're going to do this. And obviously it didn't happen like that, but as I say, those memories are so fresh and so vivid.
Did you say Garry Thomspon?
I did actually say Garry Thomspon, indeed, and I'm delighted to say that we can hear from him now. Matt Cecil was speaking to Garry Thomspon about some of the previous FA Cup games that he'd appeared in for Wycombe Wanderers.
Can you believe it's 5 years ago, that Aston Villa game? It's flown by.
Do you know what? Yeah, and again, it just feels like yesterday. I've been quite fortunate to have played in some entertaining games and enjoyable games. But yeah, looking back at that, I just it just feels like yesterday. Such a good day, such a great atmosphere at the ground. Yeah, and I think we were a little bit unfortunate not to win the game. All being told, we had the momentum. They were struggling a little bit in the league, so we definitely thought we had cause to cause them problems and stuff like that. And I think we're a little bit unfortunate to lose the tie overall. But yeah, very enjoyable day.
Do you remember the week before that we played Morecambe at home? I think we'd been on a good run before that. We'd beaten Luton just after Christmas. And then that Morecambe game, we're 2-0 down. Things you think couldn't get worse. And then Matt Ingram gets sent off right at the end. And of course it gave Alex Lynch the chance to step up for another big moment in this Villa game. Yeah,
and it's unfortunate now that Lynch is not actually still playing. But yeah, I think he stepped in for at Wembley as well, hadn't he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
So it was a man for the big occasion. Was Mr. Lynch? Yeah, but like I say, we were kind of obviously when you go into these games, you need certain things to go your way. Obviously, losing your first choice keeper, although Lynchy was a very apt replacement. Not at any point did any of the lads go, we need him to kind of. Matty was very, very good keeper. He made some unbelievable saves. He was a massive presence in the team. He was a quiet lad, but his presence on the pitch was there for all to see. And all credit to Lynchy, because I thought he did very, very, very well. Like I say, I think on the day, I think we were just unfortunate. Them kind of games, FA Cup, throw up all kinds of things. If when the big boys come to you, they can either steamroll you or you make it an entertaining game. And I think we thoroughly played our part in that game, 100%.
Yeah. I think from memory, it kind of felt like a win. I remember the celebrations at the end were so great. There was a wonderful photo of Luke O'Nien on your back, fists up to the crowd, because we were a League Two side. Aston Villa, yes, as you said, were struggling in the Premier League. Looking back, I suppose that was our one big chance, wasn't it, that day? Because the replay you always felt was going to be tougher. But we held our own well, didn't we, for most of that game up at Villa Park?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We didn't discredit ourselves in any way, shape or form. And, you can kind of use them games to build your own momentum in your own season. We fought and we need them little things to go our way. I mean, they didn't cause us that many problems, if I remember correctly. We were thoroughly in the game, and obviously JJ scored the penalty, and I think we had a couple of, looking from memory, and them chances. We had a few things, where you try and get the first touch on instances from corners and things like that. I think I've prodded one just wide of the post. Aaron Pierre's met one with a great header, and I think we were thoroughly in the game. And I think if we were going to win the game, it was definitely going to be at home. You go to their ground, Villa Park, massive ground, and they move the ball really well. And I remember playing up front, and I was thinking to myself, I didn't really feel like I had a touch of the ball. Although I nearly put us in the lead, I managed to get my head on something that I didn't expect to get on. It was one of the ones where you kind of jump, and the keeper's missed it, and it's just kind of hit me on the head and gone over the bar, unfortunately. So I think if we were going to get any kind of look like that, we needed that one to go in, if anything else.
Now, some players go a whole career without really enjoying much of a cup run. You made it to the League Cup final with Bradford. Obviously, you scored against Arsenal that year. We had the Villa adventure, and you probably thought that was your last one. A year later, we get to the third round, get drawn at home to Stourbridge, I think we're the lowest ranked side in the competition. But to win that, and do you remember the scenes up at Blackpool in the hotel when the draw came out, Tottenham versus
do you know
Wycombe?
what? Funnily enough, I do. And I was showing my girlfriend before the videos of the lads celebrating, but it came up on my Facebook, and it was like a time hop. And obviously, I posted it when we got the news, and yeah, it was great scenes. When you're a small club in the FA Cup, you want to get the big ties, you want to get the glamorous ties. Obviously, you want to get you want to get it at home, so to try and stand any kind of chance. But yeah, I mean, when the draw came out, we all just went nuts for a little bit, and then it all calmed down, and everyone was on the phones messaging about obviously who we've got, and then everyone's just kind of building for that game. Then really, it was such a mental game. Still annoyed that I didn't start the game. I'm not going to lie, but. It's one that I look back on now, and every time my friends are sick of it. Every time the FA Cup comes round and I get posted in something, or I get tweeted in something, I always repost it, and they're all sick to death of. Because I like to remind them that especially our kids as well at my academy, I like to jib them and tell them that I'm not just a coach. I did actually used to play a little bit of football as well. So it's always nice to repost them kind of things for their sake, so they can see. What I did in my career.
Because it was very nearly the last FA Cup goal ever scored at White Hart Lane, wasn't it? It was their last season.
Yeah.
And I think they went on and smashed Millwall 6-0 at home in the next round. And I bet you can remember the goal as vividly as I can, because they'd lost the right back, hadn't they? I think Trippier had gone off injured.
Trippier had gone off. I think Westy had caught him in the back, or someone had caught him in the back. So they'd gone down to 10 men, and from being honest, we were like, I certainly was. You take a 2-2 and take them back to Adams Park and see what happens there. And all I was thinking about in the build-up to the game was Wesley's done unbelievably well. And when you look at it back, there's Sam Saunders breaking his neck trying to get in the box. Luke O'Nine's in there. Woody's just in and around there as well. And there was that feel of, if we could just get something, you never know. And we were kind of that team that we would never really kind of sit in and, want a draw. I think that was kind of shown by the substitutes that the gaffer made on the day. It was never one of, let's consolidate and let's sit in and let's try and take something back. We wanted to win the game, and especially when they go down to 10 men, Wesley's done unbelievably well. And all I was thinking was, if he gets across in the box, I just wanted to try and get on the end of it. And it was just one of them surreal moments that he's managed to put it on the money for me. And I've managed to because I was never the kind of greatest in the air. I was a presence because of my size, obviously, but I would never call myself I was never technically very good with my head, and it was just one of them ones that everything just came off the sweet spot. I think for the rest of the game was a bit of a blur. Although we went on to lose the game, I was just like, oh my God, what have you kind of done here? Mm. That was one of them moments where you just like, wow. And again, fortunate enough to have a say in, or play some part in what was an unbelievable game at White Hart Lane.
I know you left the club that summer, but you will have kept a close eye on the club's progress. And how did you feel that night back in July when you watched Wycombe Wanderers make it to the Championship with that win at Wembley?
Oh, unbelievable. I've always shown a massive interest in the clubs that I used to play for, none more so than Wycombe. It was a great 2 years in my life. Met some really good friends. I'm still in contact with Sam Wood and Sam Saunders and JJ and Blooms, Hazy obviously at the time, and I just love it. I love to see success. I'd love to still be a part of it in that sense. You know what I mean? There's a little bit of jealousy only because I wasn't around to join in the celebrations. But still in contact with Bayo and all them guys. It was just magical. Is all I can kind of say, really. Thoroughly deserved. They had a great season. I know, obviously, they were in and around it for a lot of the season, and obviously with everything that happened, getting into the playoffs the way they did, I thought they were outstanding in the 2 legs over against Fleetwood, and then the final. Yeah, I was disappointed with when they equalised. I must admit, it was obviously one of them ones that's kind of that's gone in, hasn't it? And but yeah, I had utmost faith in JJ when he stepped up for the penalty. Mr. Cool, isn't he? You don't get anyone more cooler in them situations. And yeah, I was straight on the phone congratulating them. I messaged Dobbo and I messaged the gaffer as well to say well done. And you kind of wish to kind of play for people like that, because they're so, like, you run through a brick wall for them. They're so down to earth, and I absolutely loved my time playing under them, and I learnt a lot from them. Not just the football side of it, the mental side of it, and I learnt a lot from how they work and how they are as people, and I think that stood me in good stead moving forward from when I left.
I think that's something that really stands out from Gary, just hearing him say that, but other players that have worked with Dobbo and with Gareth as well, how they're not just focused on your game, but they're working on sort of bringing you on as a player and indeed a person.
Yeah, and that always comes across, doesn't it? Whenever you hear players talk about their experience at Wycombe Wanderers, it's always so positive, and you can imagine that actually somebody like Gary would then go and tell other players, well, yeah, if you get the chance to go to Wycombe, then go, because it's a fantastic place. I think it's really, really nice to hear. And again, we've talked about it previously, but it just shows why actually we are so good at getting former players to come back to Wycombe Wanderers.
I've also heard a lot of other players say that they'd be prepared to run through a brick wall for them, which is quite, apart from anything else, is quite hazardous.
yeah, indeed. But again, it was those couple of comments that completely stuck out in that interview for me. It's just like, you hear this time and again, and it just shows how lucky we are, I think, to have the management team that we do.
Still to come on the Wycombe Wanderers Show as we build up to the FA Cup 4th round, romance of the Cup, the magic of the Cup. There's one other, isn't there? There's Cup romance of the Cup, magic of the Cup, something else. Oh, Fever, FA Cup Fever. That's the other thing. Cup Fever. Might catch that. Yeah. We'll be speaking to former midfielder Kevin Betsy in a few moments' time, and we'll hear from Pete Couhig as well.
Love music, love talk, love Wycombe Sound.
Welcome back to the second part of the Wycombe Wanderers show, and as mentioned, we're building up to the FA Cup 4th round tie against Tottenham. And whenever I think any cup competition, it really sort of sets your mind thinking to other cup competitions as well. Obviously, we've already talked about when Wycombe last played Spurs in the 4th round, but also League Cup as well is something that Wycombe have done pretty well in, certainly of late.
Indeed, yes, and the Chelsea semi-final run, of course, lives long in the memory.
I definitely remember. Well, I went to Stamford Bridge for the game. I was very high up, I recall, but also I especially remember the home game where it was 1-1, and Kevin Betsy was among the players to feature in that, and it was great to have the opportunity to speak to him a little earlier on. We spoke to him this morning whilst he was taking a break from homeschooling.
I feel a little bit sorry for the teachers. They're working extremely hard in really difficult times, and they're trying to juggle their own lives as well as look after thousands of children across their area. So it's a very difficult time for them, and obviously we're just trying to help the education of our own children while they're with us.
Having a dad who's a former professional footballer, PE must be especially exciting time for the youngsters in the Betsy household, I imagine.
Yeah, I mean, Joe Wicks helped enormously in the initial stages of lockdown, but I'm a little bit greyer these days, and my body doesn't move as well as it did back in the day. So yeah, I do try and help as much as I can, and my wife's quite active with the children. But yeah, the only memories that they have of their father playing football is perhaps their grandparents showing them stuff, and we don't have a lot of memorabilia in the house, so that's but yeah, it's all good.
How is your maths? Because I imagine, especially for myself, if I was to do some homeschooling, that would be a particular subject which I'd struggle with. The kids would be saying, "Can you help with this?" and I just look confused.
Yeah, likewise. I put my eyes to my wife where the maths and science questions are concerned, and academically I did okay at school, but maths wasn't one of my best subjects. So I preferred sort of like geography and English and things like that. But yeah, I do look to my wife to help with that. So yeah, just pass on the buck.
It's very good to have that option, isn't it? If it's like being in a quiz team. If your wife's got specialist subjects, you can hand over to her.
No, of course. I think it's the key thing. It's delegation, isn't it? And what your best attributes are.
Yeah, definitely. So it's very fortuitous that we can speak to you, because obviously Wycombe have got their fourth round FA Cup tie against Tottenham coming up on Monday. And as we touched on, it was 14 years ago on the 23rd of January. I've looked it up and everything. That you played against Chelsea in those two legs. That must have been a fantastic, obviously, occasion to reflect back on. Yeah,
it certainly is. The club have done extremely well in recent times under Gareth's stewardship, and they have a really good team, a really good togetherness, and this tie against Spurs and funny enough I think we played against Jose's team, so it's quite it's a time where Jose's coming back to Adams Park, and I think Wycombe have got a fantastic chance to cause a shock. I was really fortunate enough to be at the game recently in the last round against Preston, because I was scouting for England. So Wycombe played very well. They had a really good intentions in the game and really took the game to Preston. And the scoreline didn't flatter Wycombe at all. So Tottenham would be very, very mindful of the dangers that Wycombe will pose on the game.
You must remember from your own time as well the feeling of progression as you go through the rounds, because I think you had Cheltenham, didn't you, before the semi-final, and then Doncaster before that as well. It must be a real nice sense of making progress and then reaching the semi-finals as you did.
Yeah, that was a really special time for the club, and the early rounds were difficult. I think we played Notts County away in the early rounds of the game, and then we had Charlton at the Valley and the Premier League side, and no one expects us to go there and win, and we did just that, and we thought, that Charlton would probably be our best performance away, and then we just carried on the run, and the Chelsea game was phenomenal. Adams Park was full to the rafters, the noise and the support that the fans gave us and the energy on the day. It was live on TV. I think it was ITV actually the game was on. So those days there wasn't as many channels as there are these days. So the main focus at that time, if you're a football fan, was probably that game. And we had a good account of ourselves. I think it was 1-1 the game, and Jermaine scored a great goal, and we couldn't really repeat the performance away at the Bridge, but some really good memories without a doubt.
Fantastic to come up against top flight players as well. Obviously you played for Fulham before that, but it must have been fantastic for the rest of the teams to come up against the likes of Shevchenko and Ballack and people like that.
Yeah, definitely. For a professional footballer, you want to play at the highest level, and all the players that are in the squad, we wanted to test ourselves against some fantastic opposition. I remember I think in the Charlton game I was against Jimmy Traore. He was left back, and he'd won the Champions League, I think, a year or two before with Liverpool. So that was an example of okay, you're playing against a top player. And then when we played Chelsea, I was up against Ashley Cole, who's, for me, one of the world's best fullbacks. And then obviously the other players were up against, world-class players in Lampard, Ballack, etc. So it was a really good time for the players in the squad to sort of know what it feels like to playing against those Premier League players, and try and give them the aspiration of if you can continue to do well at League 2 level or League 1 level, then perhaps you could play regular football and in the Premier League. And so many of the players from that squad have gone on to do that.
It must have felt as well like you had such a great team at that time. Obviously, the likes of yourself and Matt Bloomfield, who's obviously still there today, and Tommy Mooney and Sergio Torres. It was just a great kind of group of players. Yeah,
it's a special time, as I said. We had a fantastic group of people for a start. We were all very different, and we all had different motivations and different goals that we were trying to achieve. But the common goal was to be successful with Wycombe. And when we did get on the grass, we played some fantastic football. This wasn't a team that was played in a sort of like a negative style or defensively. We were probably born from the John Gorman idea of the game initially the year before, and then carrying on with Paul Lambert, who made some few tweaks along the way. And one of those things was around trying to have a possession-based game, and when we played against the higher level teams, all the players that the club have accumulated were technically very good. So we were able to handle the ball in tight spaces. We were able to play a different style of football when it was required. So, it was a fantastic time and really good people, and really, really fortunate to be involved in such a fantastic football club and working with some fantastic players and staff.
You must have been pleased as well with your own goal tally as well, chipping in with quite a few as a midfielder as well, especially.
Yeah, I was very fortunate, at Wycombe. I remember the day when I was going to sign. John Gorman and Steve Brown, who had been pursuing my services for about 6 months, they showed me on a tactic board, like, hey, well, this is the players we've got in the team. This is where we're going to play you. And he put me sort of like it was a back four, and there was 3 midfield players. They had obviously Rob Lee at the time was there. They just bought Stephen Oakes, and they had I think Matt Bloomfield or Joe Burnell was in that squad at that time. And then obviously they had Nathan Tyson and Tommy Mooney. And then he picked me up, and I was just like one of these little magnet things. And said, Kevin, you're just going to play either on the left or on the right, but don't worry about defending too much. Just play any side you want where you see the space. So for an attacking player, if you have a manager that's going to give you the freedom and the allowances to neglect the defensive side sometimes, which I wasn't fantastic at, and I wholeheartedly admit that. But what that did do was help us to have an attack that was able to sustain attacks and also create a lot of chances. And I had to chip in with my goals. There was a responsibility, if I didn't create or score 1 or 2 games, then I wouldn't be in the team. And that's the accountability that I was on my shoulders. Every week I knew if I wasn't performing, I weren't playing. And I had a really good relationship with Stephen Oakes, who was one of the midfield players, and also Danny Sender, who played right back. So we formed a really good partnership on that side. And then when you've got front men in Tyson and Mooney in the early days, and then later on in Jermaine Easter, then it was always great knowing that they would put the ball in the back of the net.
It must have been great to have had that role as well. I don't mean of a magnet, but of that too. But to have that kind of freedom as well, as you say, must have really suited your game.
No, it did. I was an attacking player. My defensive responsibilities were not as great as they should have been. And John was fully aware of my deficiencies, but he looked at my strengths and said, okay, what can I get out of this kid? What can he bring to the team? And that's a fantastic quality in a manager. And, I was able to do well, and the team was able to do well, most importantly.
And it must be a great sign that obviously you thought a lot of the club and the club a lot of you as well, because when you left in 2007, you came back a couple of years later initially on loan, but then spent another season really sort of contributing then as well.
No, it's a really special club, the fans, the owners and the board members have really sort of like, it's one of my grounds. Every time I drive up to Adams Park, it's just a beautiful place to play football. It's got so much history. With fantastic managers and players that have come through and played for the quarters. And, they really sort of looked after me off the pitch in terms of like, was I settled? And, that could they do anything for me and my family? And you just feel a really family connection. And, when I was able to make the decision to sign in the first instance, I dropped a division. You probably remember I was playing in League One with Oldham, and to make the commitment to sign for League Two, it had to be something really special. And I touched on the football aspect, which John explained to me, and Steve Brown, and then obviously other aspects in terms of what was the players like, what was the environment like. It was a really fantastic club. It was the training base and how the club was run was probably like a championship club, but playing in League Two. This is the best way I can describe it. And then obviously I was sold to Bristol City in January, one of the years. And then I came back under Peter Taylor first, and then obviously came back and signed permanently under Gary Waddock, and we got promotion from League Two for that period as well. So all fond memories and really, really special club and special people.
That must be really exciting to be involved in that promotion campaign as well, and especially to see where the club are now.
Yeah, definitely. I was part of the squad that I only signed on loan for about 3-4 months, and I was part of the squad that we were relegated from League One. And then obviously I stayed and helped the team, get back promotion under Gary Waddock, and we did ever so well. And he was a really good manager, and the club was doing some really good things off the pitch. We were playing some really good football, and as I said before, a really special time to appreciate the football time in sort of like the twilight ends of my career, really.
It was nice. Are there any particular, obviously we spoke about the Chelsea game, but are there any other particular matches or goals that particularly stand out from either of your spells there?
Oh God, good question. I think the Derby games are always great. The Oxford games and obviously the MK Don games was big games in the local derbies for the people of Wycombe supporters. I managed to score in both of those fixtures, Oxford at home, Oxford away. I think I scored a last minute win at MK Dons in a win. So there was some really good moments where it was a special time. But I think for myself personally, I think I scored a hat-trick away. It was my first league hat-trick away at Mansfield in League Two. That was a really good performance. But I think really in the team aspect, I think those performances where the team was flying high in League Two in the top ends of the league and playing really good football, and then and obviously the cup runs that we were able to go on as a group of people, that would long live in the memory, and no one will be able to take those special moments away from us as a collective. And as I said, we're all different people at different stages in our life, but we've come together at a real point in time to make something special for the community of Wycombe.
And really nice after you're playing as well that you got to do some coaching, and you sort of touched on at the beginning that you've been scouting for England, which people may not think, may not have heard that correctly. They're scouting for England. This is very impressive. But you're really heavily involved with the youngsters and currently the under-18s manager. Yeah, that's right. I was really lucky when I was still playing at Wycombe. I think I was 27, 28, and I actually started my coaching badges while I was still playing. I really wanted to have a sort of like dedication to the craft and respect the trade really as a coach. You're a teacher. It's a different thing than playing. And I did my badges while I was still playing, and Wycombe was a club that allowed me to work full time at Fulham in the academy with the young players and developing those young players. And then I was really fortunate to get asked to lead the England under-15s national team. So I took that role on. I left Fulham. This was probably 5 years ago now. And then I was been working with the national team for the last 4.5 years, doing the 16s, 17s, 18s, and work with some fantastic players that the academies are developing. And yeah, it's a really fortunate role, and it's one of the proudest things that you can ever imagine, to represent your country and in the highest level of coaching. It must be so exciting as well to kind of nurture, if you like, and spot talent coming through that in not too distant future will be seen in the senior squad, I expect.
Yeah, it is. It's a really special thing, working with young people and trying to help them achieve their goals is a special time. And, sometimes they don't all make it in football, but if you're able to develop them a little bit as people, that's also very special. And, there's nothing more than someone young to aspire their dreams. And that's what it's all about. It's not about, receiving rewards or getting accolades. I feel that youth development is the essence of it is to make, young players, people's dreams and their aspiration become reality. And, it's a great time. I think even in some of the players that we have within the England national team are fantastic. And I've been really fortunate to work with some top players. Funny enough, in the Wycombe team that you have, so that's how I'm saying about how old I am these days. So some of my first under 12, 11, I worked with Dennis Adeniran. He's on loan from Everton.
Yes.
So he was 11 or 12 when I first worked with Dennis. I worked with him for about 3-4 years at Fulham. And then Fulham sold him to Everton when he was 16, 17. Now he's on loan. So it's great to see him in your team. Anis Mehmete was a young one at Fulham. I think I worked with him for 2 or 3 years, and he's a really exciting young player. And
he's still young though, so hopefully that won't make you feel too old.
Great, doing very well. And Ibere Isa as well, another one, 11 and 12. I worked with him at Fulham for 3 or 4 years, and it's great to see him go on and do wonderful things. And just on a Wycombe perspective, that's a good example of 2 or 3 that it shows my age.
No, definitely. It's so nice, isn't it? You mentioned Isa as well. When he was on loan at Wycombe, it was so great to see him. And as you say, so great to see him doing well now. And Wycombe seem to have attracted, especially loan players who've done so well and then gone on to sort of greater things. It's really nice that the loan market works in that way.
Yeah, it's Gareth and Richard Dobson have done a fantastic job, not just on the pitch, but also in their recruitment and their selection of players. And, they're very careful in the players that they look to bring into the club in terms of their character and the background. But, Wycombe, it always has been and always should be a club that is able to nurture their own talent. And they've done that in numerous examples in the past, but also help other players from other top clubs to get game time. But this would also improve Wycombe's team and themselves. And because, good loans can be a really improve the development of your own squad. And, you've seen so many examples of that with really good loan players that the club have had in the past.
And there must be a real sense of pride for yourself as well that you've been involved with a team which is now, gone on to do so well.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. As I said before, there was the real mixtures of ages. You had the veterans in, Tommy Mooney and Rob Lee, who were, the sort of like shining examples of professionalism and attitude and how to set the example. And then we had the young bucks coming through with, Russell Martin wasn't a regular starter because he was up. Danny Sender was in front of him, but he was a player that he had a real hunger for development in himself. He would give 100% in everything that he did. The extras that he did off the pitch was outstanding. Same with Mike Williamson that they bought from Southampton, who was not involved in the first team initially. Then Roger Johnson, Will Antwi was underneath. Then you had another good player, Will Antwi. Then you had Clint Easton at left back. Played in a high level, but really good technical footballer. Was probably really underrated, but real good quality in possession. And and Stefan Oakes in midfield, technically outstanding player, probably one of the best left-footed players I've ever come across. I'm talking about some players that I've played with and coached who are left-footed, and the way Stefan hits the football was unbelievable. So, and it's great to see those players go on. Rob played in Premier League. Roger Johnson played in the Premier League for Birmingham. Mike Williamson for Newcastle. Russell with Norwich. Nathan Tyson went on to a fantastic career. Jermaine Easter played in the Premier League. So there's so many examples. I've missed so many other players out, and I apologise for that. But, I'm getting old and sometimes my memory can fail. But, it's definitely some real... That's the thing. It's really special to see those people go on, and not just the ones that went on to other things in terms of football, but players that were in the squad, but went on to fantastic things in their life. Whether it's in business or in other things, and that's also great to see and catch up with people sometimes and see how they're doing.
Really fantastic to speak to Kevin Betsy, and my thanks, of course, as always, to JDT and Alan at the Ex-Players Association. We'll have more ex-player-ness next week. 90s striker Kim Casey he'll be hearing from him.
Oh, exciting.
I've given it away.
I was very impressed, considering that Kevin was in the middle of homeschooling. He didn't sound, frazzled at all. No,
exactly. Nice that he defers the maths and science questions to his wife as well.
Yes, very, very wise.
I'm sure that's something that many a parent can relate to.
Oh, absolutely, yes. Still to come on the Wycombe Wanderers Show, we will be hearing from the Chief Finance Officer at the club, Pete Couhig, ahead of the game against Tottenham Hotspur on Monday. Yes, in fact, we'll do that now, shall we? Indeed, we can, yes.
let's do it now. Fantastic to hear from Pete, obviously. There seems to be quite a lot going on at the club, as we'll hear in a few moments' time. Bob spoke to him earlier on today. There's obviously the vaccination centre as well. There's that, but there's also the dealing of the coronavirus outbreak this week and the build-up to the Tottenham game as well.
Indeed, yes. And I started off by asking him, with regards to the COVID outbreak in the club, what was happening with regards to that?
The doctors recommended we go into a circuit breaker at the training ground last week. The last time the guys were together was, I think, last Tuesday, which training got canceled that day as well. And everybody went into self-isolation until today. And the boys did rounds of testing this morning. We had the lateral testing, which provided instant results, as well as the league testing, which we sent in. So we'll hear about that later. Boys trained today, so everybody's really excited to get the Spurs match Monday night for sure.
And that's definitely going ahead. That's 100% confirmed.
Well, is anything 100% sure nowadays, Bob?
Okay, 99%.
What's that? Yeah, no. We fully expect to be able to play Monday night. Early results were extremely good.
Excellent, fantastic. Well, that's really good news for everyone, and I would imagine for the club as well, particularly because the game's going to be live on TV.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a crazy world we're dealing with nowadays. It seems like something new happens every day that we have to deal with, and this is just one of those hiccups that we're going to have to overcome. Definitely taking it as a learning experience, and one of the surprising things is that we take it so seriously at the training ground. We've done everything we can. That it's just one of those additional warnings that it's out there and it's about very heavy right now, and our boys, everybody involved in the club needs to take as great a precaution as we can because we need to get all these fixtures played for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that we've had a ridiculous schedule in the first half of the season. Clearly going into the second half, things looked a little bit like they will probably be a bit easier, but obviously the more games that are postponed, the more hectic it's going to be towards the end of the season.
Yeah, exactly. We've already rescheduled both of these matches, adding 2 more weeks where we've got double game weeks. And once we beat Spurs on Monday night, we're going to have to deal with extra matches in the FA Cup as well.
So that's really, really exciting. I know how much that you love the FA Cup. We could all see that from your reaction to the draw. It couldn't be more perfect, really, could it? Jose Mourinho coming to Adams Park.
No, it's really one of the phenomenal components of going in automatically in the third round and having such a great match against Preston and moving on to the fourth round is that the possibilities of who you could draw are. You could get Chorley, or you could get Tottenham Hotspurs, or you could get Manchester United, or you could get Liverpool, or you could get Cheltenham. FA Cup is really amazing, and I know the boys are really excited to play Spurs on Monday night. I think Tottenham might be one of the second most favorite clubs around Wycombe for sure. I know we get a lot of Arsenal fans as well, but everywhere I go, I see a lot of Spurs stuff, and I know some of the guys on my Sunday League team support them. So it's always nice to get one of the big boys, especially at home.
Yeah, absolutely, and with a manager who is so well known as well, and clearly the players. Harry Kane's in there, Gareth Bale. You've got Son there. They have an amazing amount of talent. It's going to be wonderful for our boys to actually be able to play them at Adams Park, and I would think give them a bit of a surprise.
No doubt, and I'm really glad we're on BT Sport. Hopefully as many people will be able to see it as possible. I know that makes it a little bit tougher because you say that, it is going to be Josie, it is going to be Son, it is going to be Harry Kane, one of the best managers in the world and one of the best teams in the world is going to be here, but it's another reminder that our supporters won't be. So it's a great draw, but it could be better for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, as we've said so many times this season, that is the real sad thing about it. It's amazing that we're in the Championship. It's amazing that we've got Tottenham at home in the FA Cup, but you can't help but feel that actually, if this had happened during a normal time, we would have sold Adams Park out goodness knows how many times over.
Yeah, without a doubt. That's one of the good things about having the vaccination center here at Adams Park is that I get to see how many people get to roll in and out every day getting the vaccine. I know we're getting closer and closer and closer to, I guess a new sense of normalcy because, I think we're definitely going to have to alter how we live on the planet in order to hold this down, on an annual basis. I just can't wait till we get a little bit more freedom, and hopefully the vaccination rollout is going to help us get there sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I think that's one of the wonderful things as well that the club is doing. How are things going with regards to the vaccination centre? I know that you had to jump through a lot of hoops to get that. It's
unbelievably smooth process. It's given a few of our stewards a job as well, managing the car park, making sure people roll in and out under the COVID regulations. Doctors have been fantastic. It is really, I'm in the office down here. It really almost seems like I don't notice anything. It's just been the smoothest process you could imagine.
Yeah, and I think it's fantastic for the local community that you're doing that, and I think it's great for the club. It obviously is, a very prominent reminder that you're there at a time when obviously there's not many people coming to the stadium.
Yes, it is. We've kind of joked. We wish we could make everybody leave through the shop, but we asked, and that's not allowed.
Yeah, I wouldn't imagine that it is. There's no deals going on then. I don't know. For the people who have the 100th, 200th vaccine, they get a free ticket. There's nothing like that going on.
No. We can't clog up their lines. They got to move as many people in and out of there as possible on a daily basis.
Yeah, okay, that's completely understandable. With regards to the championship and the league form, are you still completely confident that we will be in the championship next season?
We are, it's unbelievable the level of confidence that is in the training ground. I know it sounds weird coming off of a COVID circuit breaker break over the last 10 days, but we are healthier than we have been at any stage of the season. Had a tremendous performance against Preston. And, when you looked at the guys that were on the bench and not even in the team sheet, it just goes to show how strong of a squad that we have and how deep we are. And if we can maintain health, we have enough guys to be able to withstand, enough quality players to be able to withstand 2 matches a week. And we really all feel like very confident that we can do this. We don't feel like we can beat anybody on the league on any given occasion. And the boys are feeling very confident that the wins are going to start coming.
Yeah, and I think the fact that they played so well against Preston, it was such a shame that QPR game was postponed because it was a wonderful performance. Our best performance probably of the season so far.
Yeah, it was absolutely gutting. Everybody was ready to go. And then once the positives started creeping up, it was a situation where you've heard Rob say it all year. You've heard Gareth say it all year. The health of our players is our absolute concern, and to see it spread a little bit in the squad was very concerning. We were also, because it was obviously in that 3 to 5 to 7 day window where it's most catching. It wasn't just our own players' concern. We had a very real concern about spreading it to another team, and so that played in our mind as well. But really, it wasn't even a decision made from my perspective or the gaffer's perspective. We took medical advice on what we should do, regardless of the risk as far as the EFL investigating, us. Every single postponement automatically generates an investigation, and we feel confident that we're going to be clean because we followed our doctor's advice and thought of the health and safety of our players and other players in the league first and foremost.
What about the guidance from the EFL? Because I've spoken to Gareth about that before, and he did say that he felt that actually that there should be more guidance so that actually you guys know what to do in this circumstance.
No, we had a championship call earlier this week, and it was obviously a huge topic of discussion because it's difficult. Because if there is guidance, it's not static. It doesn't stay the same. Rules and advice, and there's so much data that is getting accumulated over time that obviously guidance will shift. But it's not as clear as anyone would like. I'm trying to figure out how to say this as politely, and it's a little bit of a frustrating process. Sure, it would be nice for somebody to tell you what to do, but that just doesn't exist. And so it's one of the reasons why we leaned so heavily on our team's medical team's advice.
And again, we know how good that medical team is, so it must be fantastic to have those guys there.
Yeah, it was, we take such precautions at the training ground and in the red zone at the stadium that, I was a little bit surprised that it happened to us, because we also have the data on 9-10 months of testing. We know who's had it. We know who has the antibodies, who doesn't. The more data that seems to be accumulated, the more confusing that this virus actually seems to be.
Sure, and for you to be saying that, because we've heard you say before that you are a stats nerd.
Yeah, the one thing that gives me comfort, and I had this conversation with one of the guys that had it, is that the statistics for athletes. There have been zero. I think there's been zero professional athletes that have died this year. The symptomatic percentages of very healthy athletes seems to be much lower than the general populace. So the statistics do give us some confidence in that we're really, the health and safety of our players is not being as compromised as it would be, for an 80-year-old person with underlying health conditions. The interesting thing about the data is that it really shows that there are some groups out there that are very at risk, and there are some groups out there that aren't nearly at risk. You're talking about young people, and it's been, I'm extremely happy that they are getting our people who are most at risk vaccinated very quickly, so that the young people that are giving up a year of their lives are able to get them back as soon as possible.
Sure, and as someone who's been very lucky to be in and around the team and the club this season, I can very much vouch for the fact that, I think what's been going on down at Adams Park has been so safe. I felt very, very secure there. Similarly, unfortunately, I haven't been able to see you for about a month because Matt then sent out a message saying, look, please only attend if you consider it absolutely vital that you come to the ground. So I haven't been there because of that. But as I say, every time I have been there, I think you guys have done the absolute utmost to ensure that actually everybody, not just the players, but the staff, the stewards who are there, and the press are completely safe.
Over the last 6 months, it's been the safest place. This and the training ground it's where I feel the safest. Even when we had 1,000 or 2,000 people, it was so well organized and it felt so safe. But obviously with, the winter acceleration of the virus this year, it's very easy to understand that decision with hindsight for sure. And I just hope we can get a handle on it as soon as possible.
Sure. Well, yes, we definitely all echo that. Is there any suggestion at the moment from the EFL that football might be postponed? I'm guessing now not, because we seem to have sort of almost reached the peak of the current wave, fingers crossed, and football has continued. I think obviously it's been fantastic, absolutely, for the morale of everyone, but at the same time I can hear Gareth saying, football is not the most important thing in life.
No, yeah, well, I can't speak for League One and League Two in their discussions, but at the championship level, everyone seems to be very committed to finishing the season. No, I just don't see it stopping. I think that because of the underlying statistics on how maybe it affects players, I think that's given everybody the more and more confidence that we should be able to finish the season, especially with the heightening of the protocols and hopefully, the resultant benefits that brings. And none of the guys want to stop playing. Everybody wants to play. From a personal perspective, when people talk about football stopping or sports stopping, honestly, a year into this, being able to watch games at night, being able to just think about something, just watch football really is, it's helping me mentally. I know it's tough for the home and away crew that are so used to going to matches. I know it's not the same watching it on TV, but at least it's there. It gives us all something to do while we're stuck at home in lockdown. So, I just for the general population, the mental health component of it, I really hope we can figure out a way to just keep providing at least a little entertainment every day for the people who are out there staying home and staying safe.
Yeah, I completely echo that. For my mental health, it's been absolutely a lifeline. It's been completely vital. So I'm very grateful that it's continuing. With regards to the game then on Monday night, I'm assuming that Rob will be watching from Louisiana.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's FA Cup matches. The midweek matches are a lot of fun in the U.S. because, we're 6 hours ahead of them. So you're talking about all the soccer pubs and bars opening up at around 2:00 and everybody kind of ducking out of work for big matches, and it generally leads to some fun nights at places like Finn McCool's in New Orleans. I can promise you that.
And so have you got a prediction for Monday night?
Yeah, I do. I actually do think we're going to pull it off. I'm going to go score-wise. The thing that popped up into my head was 2-1, but I'm actually confident we're going to win. I don't know why. Probably because I'm a delusional optimist. But they've got a tough little spot. They've got Liverpool 3 days later. I know Josie loves a cup run, so he's certainly going to throw out a quality squad at us and want to win the match. But it is at Adams Park, and I know our boys are going to be pumped up to continue the FA Cup run this year for sure. And there's some revenge that is due. We really took it to Spurs last time, and I know a couple of the guys want to finish the job this time.
Really looking forward to the game on Monday, and of course, if you don't get to watch it, you'll be able to hear updates from our very own Bob.
Indeed, yes. I shall be bringing the team news an hour before, so at about 7:15, and then we will have goal updates. We will have half-time and full-time reports as well from the game against Tottenham on Monday, which kicks off, of course, at 7:45.
If you did miss the show, there's a podcast version available, so do tune into that. It's available on Spotify, iTunes, and join us next week. We'll be chatting to former striker Kim Casey here at Wycombe Sound.